Welcome to Washington in Focus. I'm Brett Davis. Joining me today is the Center Square's investigative reporter, TJ Martinell. You recently authored a story headlined, Businesses, Customers Push Back Against Additional Dangers of Seattle App Ordinance. So the Seattle City Council has introduced a bill aimed at protecting gig workers from sudden deactivation, by which I mean effectively being fired and not able to accept new work orders. The proposal would establish guidelines for deactivations and appeals. Supporters of the legislation contend the deactivation process is unclear and often unfair, but others say that this proposed deactivation ordinance is bad because they're citing concerns about how to deal with bad workers and complaints about privacy. Can you tell us a little bit about the ordinance?
Yeah, so it requires the companies that have 250 or more employees to have effectively a list of or terms of service or the rules for deactivation that are considered fair. And then if there's a complaint, they have to do an investigation before deactivation unless it's a really serious matter. Egregious misconduct is how it's defined.
What are some examples of that?
They added a few since the initial draft to include racial slurs, animal cruelty, and other conduct that would constitute a Class A felony offense. And if they're going to deactivate someone's account, they give them 2 weeks notice. So they can't just, unless it's egregious misconduct where they can deactivate immediately.
So it looks like they're having to do a delicate balancing act between, employee, I guess maybe not employee, but worker rights and concern for the public and whatnot.
Yeah. And one of the other parts of it that is drawing criticism from the businesses and some customers is that the company has to collect data on who filed the complaint, and they have to give some of that data to the worker who was fired.
I see that would cause an interesting, I guess there are concerns about retaliation and so forth.
Right. And so one of the criticisms that people have leveled against it is that people will just not make complaints. They just won't continue to use the business or services. So the companies aren't going to get honest feedback on their workers if something bad's going on because they're afraid that person's going to come back at them. Because they may remember, the data may not show enough to know who it is, but they can put that together with other data. Like if they're describing a specific instance and the worker remembers that incident occurring and remembers the residence where it occurred at.
Now, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head or in the course of your research, but is this a big problem? Are lots of workers being deactivated with no recourse? Or
they don't cite any data. There's not any real statistics that they're giving that I can see. And so it seems like it's a problem that's based on anecdotal evidence. And just it's a problem that may be out there, but the extent to which it's a problem is not determined by data or statistics.
But maybe the council thinks they're getting ahead of the problem, a potential problem.
That, or they're presuming that when people claim that they were deactivated for no good reason, that they're telling the truth.
Now, where is this ordinance? Where does it stand now? It's just been proposed. It hasn't been passed, correct?
It has not been passed. It was in the Public Safety and Human Rights Committee, and it'll probably at some point advance to the City Council if the committee votes to vote it out of committee.
Well, thank you so much for informing us about this interesting piece of legislation. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For TJ Martinell, this is Brett Davis. Please subscribe and thanks for listening.